fearful avoidant, and I can kind of relate to this being one myself, it's more so about feeling safe in the relationship, because a fearful avoidant tended to grow up with a lot of chaos and inconsistency. So, like, they would have moments with their caregivers where they felt really loved and really attuned to, but then the next moment it was inconsistent, and then they felt unsafe or, dismissed by their caretakers. And so a fearful avoidant is very kind of touchy in that way, where they feel like it's very hard for them to trust people or get to a point where they actually feel completely safe in a relationship. Like, they are always waiting for the ball to drop. They are very like hyper attuned to your flaws, or to things that could go wrong, or to little things that might happen that set off these alarm bells inside of them, like, ooh, this isn't good, I don't know if I like this. So a lot of times what will happen with a fearful avoidant is, like, they will get involved with you kind of in the same way that a dismissive avoidant would, where they are idealizing you and kind of thinking like, okay, everything's going to be perfect, this feels so good, this makes me feel validated and loved and whatever. But a lot of times, like, they are, especially if they're ending up with someone that's more anxious, when the relationship moves to that next stage where it's getting more committed and that anxious person wants a little bit more from them, that's going to set off these alarm bells inside of them of like, uh-oh, like, I feel like this person is too clingy, I feel like they want too much from me. And it's not so much for the fearful avoidant that they are obsessed with their independence like a dismissive avoidant is. It's more so that the fearful avoidant doesn't trust this. They don't trust someone that is clingy or overbearing or wants a lot of their time, because they wonder why. They start to think like, there's strings attached, I don't think I can live up to this person's expectations of me, and so I'm going to need to pull back a little bit. So they will pull back, and then a lot of times they will kind of crawl back into their anxious side and be like, oh, well, maybe I missed this person, maybe I was too harsh on them, so like, I'll reach back out, whatever. And you can often go into this thing where it's like this back and forth of them, coming back and then quickly feeling overwhelmed again. Because for a fearful avoidant, it is like, it feels almost impossible sometimes to get to a point in a relationship where you feel safe and comfortable with the person, because they are either, not doing enough to make you feel safe, or they're doing too much and it's pushing you away. And that's why I think the only type of person that can work with a fearful avoidant is someone that is very secure. And the fearful avoidant has to be aware and conscious of their attachment wounds and like working on them. That's what happened in my case. Like, I had tried to kind of date someone, before the relationship I'm in, and this person was more anxious, and it really, really triggered me. Like, it felt like this person didn't know me enough but wanted so much from me, like they wanted to possess me almost, and they were trying to buy my love or whatever. And to me, it just quickly like gave me the ick. I was just like, this is too much, like I just feel their insecurity, blah blah blah. With my current partner though, there was a sense of just deep security within him, where like he didn't need to possess me. He gave me time to get to know him just as friends. Like, he wasn't like pushing anything on me. And when we did start, actually hanging out in person, it just meshed very well, because there was no pushiness in him. There was also no insecurity of, being jealous or acting like he can't handle the way that I am or the person that I am. Like, and what happened in the relationship is that I noticed early on that fearful side would pop up, where I'd be like, oh, I'm kind of scared, like I think the ball's gonna drop. But he showed me over time that he was consistent and reliable. Like, he just kept showing me that he was just this calm in the storm, over and over and over. He wasn't too much and he wasn't too little. He was just a safe, reliable person. And that really, I think, has helped me to heal. And so that type of person has worked for me. I think the issue with fearful avoidants who are unhealed or who are not aware of their issues, they tend to go for either someone who is more avoidant than them or someone who is more anxious than them. And both types of people are going to deeply trigger them. And so it's like they can never find a soft place to land inside of the relationship. And so they're always like going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. When they're with someone who's more avoidant, it kind of pushes them into their anxious side. And so then they become the one who is, trying to hang on or be more clingy. However, if they're with someone who's more anxious, it's going to push them more into their avoidant side, where they start to get the ick, they start to feel cringed out, they start to feel distrusting. However, even if they're with a dismissive avoidant, that feeling of distrust is there the entire time. Their anxious side takes over to such a degree that they stay in the relationship a lot of times because that person is more avoidant than they are. So it kicks on that desire to have to like win that person's affection or validation. With an anxious person, they don't really have to do that. That person is doing it to them. And so, that sets off a whole new set of triggers for them. And especially when you're dealing with a male fearful avoidant, a lot of times they are going to go for more anxious women for some reason. Like I see this a lot, especially when you're dealing with rebound situations, because to get into like a situationship or a rebound, a lot of times you have to have like a willing participant, and anxious women are going to be more willing in that type of scenario. And so I've seen a lot of women get really, really hurt in these situations because it starts out so hot and heavy, and maybe this guy is making a lot of promises, but he gets quickly overwhelmed, and he generally just doesn't trust relationships, and he is kind of looking for the perfect person, in the same way that any avoidant would, and so there's a lot of back and forth with men like this where no matter what happens, like you never feel like you're getting anywhere with them, like you're just going around and around in a circle and not getting anywhere. And so if you're dealing with a fearful avoidant, whether it's a woman or a man or whatever, it's really difficult to get to a place where you're ever going to have a lot of success with them. I think it's a rare situation. I'm having success with my partner, but I think that the avoidant has to be aware of themselves and wanting to heal and actively working on that process, and the person they're with has to be secure enough to be able to work with them on that. So that's just my opinion.